Hey, good morning. Today is another one of our first fives. Today we're looking at a text from Mark chapter 15. And it comes in the middle of Jesus' triumphal entry and then his arrest, and then we see him before Pilate in this text right here. And so I think there's some things we can learn about this story that might open our eyes to the way we often respond to God, or how we sometimes wish we responded to God. Here's what we find in Mark 15. Very early in the morning, the chief priests with the elders, the teachers of the law, the whole Sanhedrin reached a decision. They bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. "Are you the king of the Jews?" asked Pilate. "Yes, it is as you say," Jesus replied. The chief priests accused him of many things. So again, Pilate asked him, "Aren't you going to answer? See how many things they are accusing you of?" But Jesus still made no reply, and Pilate was amazed. Now it was the custom at the feast to release a prisoner whom the people requested. A man called Barabbas was in prison with the insurrectionists who had committed murder in the uprising. The crowd came up and asked Pilate to do for them what he usually did. "Do you want me to release to you the king of the Jews?" asked Pilate, knowing it was out of envy that the chief priests had handed Jesus over to him. But the chief priests stirred up the crowd to have Pilate release Barabbas instead. "What shall I do then with the one you call the king of the Jews?" Pilate asked them. "Crucify him," they shouted. "Why? What crime has he committed?" asked Pilate. But they shouted all the louder, "Crucify him." Wanting to satisfy the crowd, Pilate released Barabbas to them. He had Jesus flogged and handed him over to be crucified. Now, one of the things, there's all kinds of pictures in this we see that the religious people of the day were upset because Jesus wasn't who they expected their Messiah to be. He wasn't bringing about a great nation. He was bringing about a unique people called his church. And they didn't expect that, and they didn't want that. And in fact, it was going to upset the systems of their day. It was going to upset their position and their power and their authority. And then we see Pilate, who has this unique opportunity to do the right thing, because he knows it's the right thing. We see it in the text. But the right thing was the hard thing. And so Pilate chooses to not do the right thing because it's hard. And so I got to be honest with you, sometimes I think for us, we choose the wrong thing because it's easier than the right thing, which is difficult. And so the question for you and I is this: will we choose the right thing even when it's hard? Will we choose the right thing even when it's unpopular? Will we make sure we're not so stuck in systems of our day that we miss the way God invites us to a unique way of life? Will we make certain that we follow after Jesus in such a way that we'll recognize, we'll see ourselves? And the truth is, in this story, we often find ourselves being the people who are like the disciples, like, "Oh, I can't believe they did that to Jesus. I can't believe they did that." When in truth, maybe you and I, we should put ourselves in the positions of the religious leaders, of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And we should ask ourselves these tough questions. What in my life am I living in this way that I'm blind to what Jesus is actually doing? What in my life am I missing? That's a challenge for you and I today. Maybe you and I, if we'll seek to follow Jesus more, he will more shape our heart and our mind and our lives so that we begin to reflect more and more who he's calling us to be. So that's a challenge for you and I today. And maybe we'll find that by the gift of God's Spirit, you and I can become more and more the people of God he's calling us to be. And so we'll catch you next time for another First Five.